What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today's Best Served Podcast 263. We're talking paid what we're worth, an immense challenge in the restaurant hospitality industry. This is Best Served Tableside Volume 2. We're talking not business as usual, episode 2 of 4. We started out last week talking who deserves benefits. And next week, we'll be getting into no more trial by fire, our struggle, massive struggle with our ability to train in this industry, to not just throw ourselves into the fire again and again and again and wonder why we don't have consistency, wonder why people say, fuck it, I'm out, because we just expect people to know what's what at a restaurant because they've worked at another restaurant before. So anyway, we'll get into that next week. Today, we're talking about living wage is what we're really going to get into. And so, again, I want to thank my guest, Sean Lauer. Good to see you, Sean. Appreciate you. And then Ellen Duffy is on as well, and we'll hear from both of them as we go through. So I want to set the groundwork a little bit. I want to articulate what we're fighting for and what we're fighting against in this industry. For me, and I know Sean and Ellen will echo this as well, and so many millions of people in this industry do, restaurants create a sense of belonging like we had never found before. I remember being a 17-year-old punk kid, barely graduating high school out in Vista, California, moving out to Ames, Iowa, my uncle's restaurant, 17, and just finding your people. I love the energy. I love the intensity. I love the chaos of it. I loved how in those moments I could be great at something and I did not want to be in a cubicle. And so that sense of belonging is very, very important. And sometimes we lose track of that. A sense of belonging is the only fundamental thing, the purely human thing that restaurants provide to both its internal and external guests, its team and those butts and seats. And that's what we need to really stay tethered to. And we lose track of that far, far too often. And so we need to cultivate the people that are in this industry. We need to start thinking of ourselves as true professionals. And for me, that means, what does it look like for us cooks to actually be able to, say, be 65-year-old line cooks getting ready to retire, to put 2 kids through college and have the gold watch and the pension, the proverbial American dream. And it's just not a reality in our industry. It's not. People like me burn out. People work 2, 3, 4 jobs. We move into another industry. These are the things that happen. And so that's what we need to lay down. If we want this to be an equitable, profitable, sustainable business model, an industry that people can not just be 16-year-old kids in as a first job, and then finally at 30, they realize, what the hell am I doing to myself? It needs to be a sustained effort through creating that roadmap for people to retirement. That's super, super fundamentally important. So some of the numbers, some of the issues massively, massively holding us back from this opportunity really play into 73% turnover rate, 56-day average employee lifespan. I want you to think about the numbers. The turnover cost for those numbers is $6,000 per line level employee and $14,000 for a manager. I want you to imagine that every almost 10 days in a restaurant or 56 days for an individual, you're moving to the next job. That costs restaurants massively. Imagine if $6,000 worth of food walked out of the restaurant in a 10-day span. You would lose your shit. You would stop everything and you would fix that issue. Yet we let people walk out the door all the time. We push them out the door all the time. We need to understand the impact that is having on our businesses. All right. All right, a lot of ranting at the beginning of this. Living wage, that's what we're talking about. I want to define that. That is the minimum income to meet your basic needs. That is a roof over your head, that is food on the plate, and that is clothes on your back. That is it. That is it. And so we need to really understand what a challenge we're creating for ourselves. And again, I know we're going to hear some stories from Sean and from Ellen as well. But for me, I remember being 18, 19, 20 and feeling lucky when I could afford an egg to put on my top ramen because we're so unbelievably poor in this industry. Sleeping on a mattress on the ground in a basement kind of bedroom, basically an extended broom closet with 4 other people. This is the reality. And we prey on our passion because I get to do this job that I love. This is what we're dealing with. These are the industry standards that we've set for ourselves for the expectation, and they just do not serve us. They do not work, not for the business, not for owners, operators, and not for people working in the businesses. We have to change the industry. All right. That's enough ranting for me for now. I'm sure we'll get some more as we go. Ellen, I wanted to bring you in first. Tell us a little of your background. I want to get the street cred, understand kind of your trajectory, how long you've been in the industry, maybe a couple stops along the way. Give us a little background of you.
Well, I've been in the industry a grand total of about 12 years, but in a serious capacity for about 10. Like you, Jensen, I had a high school job at a quick serve restaurant, and it was my first family. No offense to my actual family, but I had never felt so accepted in my entire life by this group of people. And we talked out every situation. We took care of one another. And that stuck with me, even though I left the business for a while, pursued other things, more lucrative things. I realized, I just had a big epiphany that that was what I wanted to do for real, not for the high school job for 2 years, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I went back at it with the goal of becoming a chef. And I began trying my best to work my way up. I went through a vocational program that we have locally. I worked in as many kitchens as I could just to get the education on every type of kitchen possible, you know, kosher kitchens, Indian kitchens. We don't have a lot of those things around here, but we'll stock them out. And that was my learning process. So now I've had a couple of chef's roles, and I'm back on the line as a line cook because everything's been sort of flipped upside down by the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to where I am.
I really appreciate that. The family, it's so interesting. Again, it's that sense of belonging. It's a dysfunctional family, very dysfunctional, yet there is that. And again, it's also there's strength in that. And the contradiction is that's also where the vulnerability and the weakness is, right? Because it's a family, well, you think you don't have to treat them like true professionals because you treat them like family. Yet we have to find the balancing act between those two things. You have to be able to live a life. And we don't create a lot of space for that. And I think that's important. So I really appreciate that, Ellen. And we'll come back. Sean, for you, same kind of thing. Give us a little background. I know for you, you started in a different industry and moved yourself into restaurants. So you did find the 9-to-5 job, not a cubicle, but more of that cubicle. And you said, this is not for me. And you found your way in versus Ellen and I was very young age. So I'm interested for you. Give us a little of the background, but then I want to know what was that catalyst? What was the transition where you said, I need food, I need restaurants, I need that energy?
I think, well, like Ellen said, obviously camaraderie and family is a big part of it when you get into the industry. But I think what led me to first seek that was mostly different cultures and different countries and studying travel and studying all these cultures through cuisine was something that got me into it. And that passion was really strong for a long time. But then with the pandemic, with all the things going on, with the hard work that comes with it, like becoming burnt out comes really quickly.
Yeah.
So I guess, just culture and camaraderie was the biggest part of drawing to kitchens for me.
And for you, how many years now have you been in kitchens, in restaurants?
About 11 years now, about 10, 11 years.
Yeah. And that's about the number. I feel like when you get to it's like the 7-year itch of marriages. There's the 7-year itch of restaurants, where at the year 7, 8, 9, 10, you start to doubt. You start to have some serious questions. There starts to be some, why the hell am I doing this, right? And there's some real reasons. Both of you mentioned those. I mentioned those. There's also some artificial, we just make things up. We kind of start to validate. We kind of start to say, give excuses. Well, I know it's this. I know I can barely afford it, but I get to cook Korean food because I know that's important to you, Sean. Like that, again, we like prey off our own passions sometimes. We do it, and then the system does it. And it's really hard too, because when you're in the system, you think that that's the right thing because you're checking all those industry standard boxes. You're doing all the right things. Yet then you turn around, you're like, you're one moment, you're one paycheck, you're one down quarter away from complete collapse at all moments. And so I think it's important for us to reflect on. And I want to go back around. Ellen, I want to come to you. You know, I mentioned the top ramen story, and that's so true for me. And I think it's been true for a lot of people. But for you, you mentioned going somewhere else that was more lucrative. It's a real situation. Break it down for us a little bit. What was the vulnerability for you? What was it that you were grappling with? You said, I love it. I just can't afford it. How did you kind of go through that process personally?
Well, I ended up in retail sales management, which, in my personal opinion, can be one of the most soul-sucking positions to be in. But I did it for a
Yeah.
while, and it was indeed more lucrative. This was around 07, 08 when the economy wasn't doing so hot, so I
Right.
didn't have a lot of options. I would end up hired for a front of the house position when I wanted to be in the kitchen. I always felt that pull when I was trying to wait tables. I'm a terrible server. I will never be a server.
Yeah.
I respect servers, but I can't do it. So I, landed a few jobs and just always felt the pull of the kitchen. And that was what brought me back to it, really. But again, is it sustainable for any of us? Like you said, the people around us tend to sort of normalize our strife because it's almost like a coming of age thing. You're supposed to struggle while you're coming up. You're
Mm,
supposed to sleep on a mattress in a basement and hope you can afford some ramen or rely on your shift meal.
yeah.
If you complain about that in a kitchen, everybody around you is going to look up and then look back down at what they're doing because everybody's been through it. And as long as we continue as a group to be proud of our struggle, I think that owners and corporations who run restaurants will continue to be able to capitalize on it. These people expect this treatment. These people are proud of getting through this treatment. So why am I going to pay them anymore?
Oh, Ellen, you are getting right to the core of the issue
I'm
because
angry.
I mean, seriously, really, as you're saying that, I have both like anxiety and excitement for the fact that we're highlighting this. It makes me uncomfortable because it's so real for everybody because of the fact that we are so inclusive at a young age, right? Nobody is an investment banker when they're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yet so many people have the experience of being a busser, a dishwasher, a cook, working at the concession stand at their baseball field in their town. These are the realities of food and beverage and hospitality. Yet we stay there. It's like we never go beyond that to the true professional plane. It's we stay at this. Basically, we're treating 20 somethings, 30 somethings, 40 somethings like they're still 15, 16, 18-year-old kids. There's this place that's like, you need to struggle. Like, yes, for some reason, we don't appreciate something. We don't respect it unless we've bled out of the eyeballs for it. And again, that's where the contradiction comes in. There is strength for a moment to prove to yourself, to prove to your team, right? You absolutely need to break through that. And then what happens next? We just keep doing that again and again and again and again, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So I get it. At the front end, you need to prove yourself. You need to yourself, to the team, to the business, to the industry. Completely understand. What happens next? That's the important part. And we haven't gotten to what happens next. And so I really, Ellen, I really, really appreciate that. Sean, same kind of thing. I want to understand for you, I know you have that hustle. You're always working 2 or 3 jobs. It seems like every time I interact with you. And so for you, it's like you immerse yourself in it. Is that a way for you to financially succeed? Is it a way for you to keep cultivating the passion? Is it a way for you to stay so busy that you can't pay attention to how your life is, a complete unbalanced restaurant life? And give us a little bit of breakdown there for you.
Yeah, to be honest, when you're, I think the last one you said is definitely applies more than most. When you're that busy, you wake up and you just put one foot in front of the other and go, go, go. So, I mean, for the longest time, I was like, now I feel a little bit guilty in sense because with multiple jobs comes more money. You have a better lifestyle. Like you can live these things and you become like, I get a sense of guilt sometimes when I like have nicer things or now that I have a car to get to work, I'm not biking to work. And then it comes with another thing is the expectations as far as the workplace. When you have a car to get to work, I've been treated differently, or because I have 2 jobs, will not be considered for a sous chef position because I can't spend 13, 14 hours a day busting my ass for that one restaurant. So all these different things come up with having multiple jobs in the industry, and just it's mostly to try and live a better lifestyle. I just recently had a daughter, and providing for that is a huge part of it as well. But then you run into issues where you want to spend time with your family, so you can't work as much. and then you sometimes get overlooked for jobs, overlooked for promotions, things like that. So it's a double-edged sword everywhere you go, but it's becoming a lot more that way with the pandemic, and the industry is definitely expecting a lot from us.
Yeah, two things you said really, really struck me. One is when you have the multiple jobs, it puts you in a position where you said it, like you just keep going and going, like you don't have time to think about the things. And then something like having a daughter, a family, a spouse, any of those things, now you're not just responsible for your own hustle. You can't just keep doing the thing that you quote unquote love to do, because you're going to kill yourself no matter what. Like it's just innate in us. And so now you have somebody else to consider. And so that is that point where we go, wait a minute, what the hell am I doing here? And that's a huge vulnerability for the industry, because then also what you say is like, you can't really have that conversation. And Ellen said that too. If you show weakness, if you're not the tough guy, tough gal mentality, well, you're not as passionate, you're not as committed. And then you're going to get passed up for the job. You're going to get, pushed to the side and eventually pushed out the door. These are real interactions that we're having in the industry that we have to spend some time reflecting on. And so that's an important function of this industry that we have to change. We have to change it. And to be able to work, Sean, you mentioned like multiple jobs. Well, now all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm making a little bit more money, but you feel guilty. And that is another huge part. We just don't value ourselves enough, right? Because we're this band of rebels, the Island of Misfit Toys, Bourdain's Pirates on the Pirate Ship, which again, it creates this camaraderie and this amazing dysfunctional family dynamic. We love it. Yet it also has us undervalue ourselves again and again and again, because also there's external forces that say, when are you going to get a real job, right? When are you going to grow up beyond your job you've had since you were a 16-year-old kid? They don't see it as a true profession. And then we don't treat it as a true profession. And then they're right, it's not a true profession. These are the vulnerabilities that keep playing out, because you have to look at this as a true professional. And I don't think that we do it well enough for ourselves. We don't hold ourselves in high enough regard. And when I think about the pandemic, you've both mentioned it. Now restaurant workers are essential workers. That doesn't even begin to cover it. If you work in a restaurant, you create a sense of belonging for the people that work in that business, your team, and that community. When people have a life memory, they just had a daughter, where do they go? They go to a restaurant to celebrate, because it creates a sense of belonging. Every memory that's memorable for us was either at a restaurant or around a table with food and drinks with our family, right? And so that's what I really want us to focus on. If we think that that's important, well, then we have to invest in the people, because what we keep doing is we keep investing all of this money and time and effort into the restaurant space, having the perfect tables, having the perfect chairs, having the fucking light fixtures that were reclaimed from the Titanic that we spent $2,000 on. And then when we're ready to open our restaurant, we start hiring people. We're like, wait a minute, we don't have any money left. So fuck it. We're going to prey on their passion again. And we're going to say, you know what? I bet I can get that person to undervalue themselves at $12 an hour, even though living wage in your community is $14 an hour. Yeah, this is real numbers from Denver specifically that Andrew Parr broke down for us. Paying somebody $12, $13 an hour, you can't even live. And then we put ourselves in debt and further in debt. And then we are taking draws on our next check. And we are down this cycle that there's no way of breaking. We have to stop. We have to break the cycle. And it's so important. So, all right. Sorry, I'm ranting a lot. Ellen, I want to come back to you. As I'm kind of laying all this out there, as we're talking about this, what do you want? What do you need? What could this industry provide to you, specifically when it comes to wages? How do you think about that? How do you reconcile that? And what do you expect from this industry? Because I want to keep Ellen and Sean in this industry until they're 65 and they can retire as line cooks, if that's what they want to do, because that's a reality. So, Ellen, what do you need for that to happen? I want to talk to everybody out there who's owning a restaurant, thinking about starting a restaurant, works in a restaurant. We need to know what's the reality of your personal situation to be able to get there.
My personal situation, it's kind of a long shot, because I've been looking at things in an objective way. The pandemic has given a lot of us a chance to sort of sit back and look at our situations and say, why am I doing this? Why am I here 75 hours a week? I never even thought of it because I never had the time off to think of it. I just get up, my feet hit the floor, got one day off a week, and I spend that sleeping because I'm so tired. What I want for this industry is I want to hear about a retired chef who's sitting in a lawn chair by his pool, you know? I want to hear about somebody who worked their way up through the business like many of us have, and then got up to where they wanted to be, maybe had family, maybe traveled, did whatever they wanted to do, and then retired like most people get to do, because it is a profession. It starts out as a job for many people. That might be where the misconception comes from, the high school job. But as you get on to, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and people are moving up the ranks, whether their friends and family take it seriously or not, that is a profession. We take it seriously. I want us to be able to spend our lives doing what we love and then retire like everybody else. Small dreams, not much to ask,
I could not agree more. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to be thinking about when we're starting our businesses. Look, it's not having the right plate or, again, the right chairs or tables or any of that. It's creating a sense of belonging on all sides of the equation. This isn't like you're on one side of this and on the other side is the owners. Like, this needs to be a collaboration. This needs to be, how do I get to my goals? Well, Ellen's goal, very specifically, is to be able to have that work-life balance and be able to live that life, have the money to be able to then retire and, again, put the kids through college, do any of those things, whatever that is for you. That needs to be the reality. And so if you want your business to not be another statistic of the 60% of restaurants that close in the first year, the 73% turnover rate, the $250,000 a year that a restaurant spends to be able to lose people, you have to do something different. This is the time, because, Ellen, to your point, the pandemic, what it gave us was time to slow the fuck down, to Sean's point too, to slow down and be like, what's happening here? What do we actually want to happen? So again, really, really appreciate that. Sean, same kind of thing for you. What do you need? I don't want you working 2 jobs anymore, man. I want you working one job that works well, and then I want you to go and spend time with your daughter. How do we manifest that? What needs to happen for you? What's the reality for you?
I think that a big thing is obviously expenses outside of work, travel, ways to get to work is a big part. A lot of people don't have that luxury. I think another thing is health insurance. I think you just did an episode yesterday on health insurance just being a base regulate.
Automatic.
That should be there no matter what. It's something that I have to pay for on my own, and it costs a lot of money. So I think that these expenses that pertain to your body, your health, your means of getting to work, things that correlate with work should be included as just a base expectation of a restaurant's business plan. And respect for their employees just goes out the window if those kinds of things aren't there,
Yeah, definitely check out our Best Served Paragon series. You get the practical. So behind the scenes for everyone, Tableside is where we have these really open conversations, and you should definitely check out those past episodes of Tableside for sure. So that's going to be something that we have these open conversations. Then what we get into is trying to be able to put that into action. That's where Best Served Paragon comes into play. Sean, you're sideways. Where Best Served Paragon comes into play, where we're actually putting in practical advice. So if you look at Best Served Paragon, we're going to be talking about living wage coming up on November 16th. So this is call to action. Here's what I want you to do. If this conversation reflects your personal experience, if this conversation is something that you, as you are in a business or looking at starting a business, is something that you need to be able to understand how to invest in your people, because you got to do that first. Don't worry about the chairs and the tables and all that. So November 16th, Best Served Paragon 267. Check that out, and you'll be able to see some of the action in play. So appreciate you guys for being on. Ellen, any last thoughts? This was really, really great. We lost Sean completely. The robots. Sean, get back to work. I know you got a second job to get to today. Ellen, for you, any last thoughts? I really, again, appreciate your insights and your honesty through this.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for bringing this to everybody's attention because we don't talk enough about this, especially where I'm from, up in the woods. You don't hear anything about
Yeah.
this. So thank you. Second of all, I wish I had more solutions. I could certainly identify some of the problems. I just think that we need to somehow, we need to make some changes, clearly.
Yeah.
We need to be a sustainable workforce and we need to be sustainable employees. What that takes, I'm not sure. Maybe it takes passing some of that expense onto the guest, or maybe it comes from that money that you discussed that it costs the business each time there's turnover, because that's an untapped pile of cash sitting right there that I had never known about. So again, I wish I had some more solutions, but I
No,
just
Ellen, this is great. Highlighting the need from a human perspective for this, that like somebody needs to hear that Ellen Duffy really wants to be in this industry. And you've gone into retail like other people have. You want this to be a true profession. That is the reality. And so I want people to be able to get there. And if somebody hears that and goes, you know what, I am going to look into living wage and actually calculating what that is. So I know what that number is, not what it was for me 20 years ago when I was a line cook and I forgot about it. And now I'm trying to pay somebody the same as I survived on. And that's not the reality anymore, right? That's what's happening. So creating that opportunity, I think hugely important. So Ellen, thank you very much. Sean, robots, we got you back. Last thoughts, appreciate it. Cause I know we got to get you back to work, my friend. For you, again, kind of the hope that you have for the industry. What do you want to see happen that we need to be paying attention to?
I think just an all around sense of respect for everyone working for restaurants, everyone, managers and line cooks, down to dishwashers, everything all together. We're all working really hard in this crazy time right now to make it worth it. To have families, to have time off, and to spend it well. Like not just like Ellen said, sleeping, trying to recover from just busting your ass all the time. I think that we should be able to have some form of, enjoyment outside of work. And I think that it's achievable. We just more conversations like this and we're on our way.
Yeah, we have to care enough to make that change. We can't just keep doing the same thing. Those industry standards, they're broken. They don't serve us. They maybe never served us. Now it's time for us to say, this is what we need. We need Sean Lauer, Ellen Duffy, and everybody else who's so passionate about this industry to have that path to be a true professional. If we do that, we're not going to churn through humans as quickly as we do. And that creates an industry equitable, profitable, and sustainable. That's real. So I appreciate you both being on. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, for being a part of this conversation. And again, check out Best Served Paragon. This is where we take the table side, these emotional, real human conversations that we have with people across the industry, and we put them into action. And so definitely check out that Best Served Paragon series where there's some practical steps that you can actually take to map to the industry that we're talking about, because that's the industry we want. It's the industry we deserve. It's the industry that is being earned day in and day out by 11 plus million people. And the numbers are massive. $760 billion industry. It deserves to have true professionals be a part of it. That is it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Cheers.
Thanks, Jason.